At the precise moment that Quebec separatism is hitting all-time lows in Canada, Alberta separatism is hitting all-time highs. You now have groups like these guys actively pushing for a referendum on Alberta secession to be held within the year. Although we should note that all of the available polls have separatism sentiment at about 30%, well below what would be needed. But here's the thing about separating from Canada. You're allowed to do it. It's very hard, but Canada is one of the world's only nations that has set written guidelines for how a piece of the country can become a different country if it wants to. By contrast, here's what happens if a piece of the United States tries to become its own country. In Canada, it would start with a referendum, and since we've already had 2 Quebec separation referenda, both of which failed, the federal government took the liberty of laying out some rules for what a proper secession referendum needs to look like. Rule number 1 is that you actually have to clearly ask people whether they want to separate. This sounds like a pretty no-duh rule, but both of those Quebec secession referenda I mentioned didn't do it. Instead, voters were faced with monstrously confusing ballots like this. Now, say your referendum succeeds. That's where it gets really hard, because rule number 2 is that there's no unilateral right to secede. You've got to amend the Constitution, which means you'll have to obtain the approval of most, if not all, of the other provinces as to the terms of how you'll be leaving. So maybe you'd be able to convince an entire committee of potentially hostile provincial governments that you should be allowed to go, but they're going to want something in return.